This is Meteorologist Matthew East. Thanks for clicking on to this edition of the Carolina Weather Video. This is the edition for the 11th day of December here on this Thursday. And of course, the big story is the storm system moving through the southeastern part of the country. Very interesting temperature map this morning. I'm cutting this video as usual during the 5 o'clock hour. And you have places like Houston and Lake Charles, Louisiana that are down very close to the freezing mark. Meanwhile, from around Dothan, Alabama on up through Georgia and the Carolinas, temperatures in the 60s and even some 70s down there in South Georgia and the Florida Panhandle right now. So quite a temperature contrast associated with this developing storm system. There's your low pressure, not far from Dothan and Ozark, Alabama. This morning, that low pressure continues to take shape, rather, and it's going to be lifting directly up into the Carolinas as we go through the day today. Now, as a result of that low, there's the precipitation falling across the southeast. Now, in our area this morning, a lot of the rain fairly light, but it's going to be getting heavier with time. That is a lot of rain upstream here across the deep south, and all that is moving up in our direction. So we're going to see a lot of rain as we go through the day for today. And we do have flash flood watches in effect for much of the Piedmont as today unfolds. I'll talk about rain amounts here in just a second. Now, it's been snowing in Houston overnight. Beaumont's seen snow, and that snow that is currently in southwestern Louisiana is going to expand across Mississippi and into Alabama as we go through the day for today. Because of that, winter storm warning in effect for much of Mississippi. Those are the counties outlined, or highlighted rather, in pink. And there'll be places here, I think, in a corridor from central Mississippi on up into north central Alabama. There'll be a corridor there that probably sees a solid 4, 5, maybe even 6 inches of snow as the day unfolds. Pretty interesting event down that way. Now, in our area, we're watching the severe weather potential. That's the latest day one outlook at the time I'm cutting this video, and they have roughly from the Interstate 85 corridor points south and east from there in the Carolinas, and a slight risk of severe weather. This is our temperature and dew point composite this morning, and this green line you see here, that is where the 60-degree dew points are currently located there in points south and east from there. That lines up very well with the day one convective outlook. And I think the biggest severe weather threat today will be generally, say, from Raleigh down towards Charlotte and points east from there. That'll be your biggest severe weather threat. Can't rule out a little severe weather in the Triad or the western Piedmont, but in general, the biggest threat probably staying confined to roughly the eastern half of the state. All right, here's the setup with our big storm system. This is off of the 6Z run of the NAM, and that is a really significant closed upper air low. That's a cold core 500 millibar load. That's what's driving the snow. You get dynamic cooling down there, and the heavy precipitation brings that very cold air aloft down to the surface. The storm literally creates its own cold air at the surface. It brings it down from aloft, and that's why the snow is occurring in the deep south today. Precipitation pattern 1 o'clock this afternoon, and notice this little bubble of this blue line here. That's the 0-degree line up at 850 millibars, and that's oftentimes a rough indication, a good place to start at least to look for a rain snow line. While that's occurring back in the deep south, we have lots of rain occurring here in the Carolinas, and we'll watch that severe weather potential as well. 7 this evening, the upper air low in southeastern Alabama, surface low developing up into the Carolinas, lots of rain continuing here, snow back into the Tennessee Valley. And the 500 millibar low begins to open up into a very deep trough as it swings into the Carolinas. There's your surface pattern, that surface low, again fairly diffuse here, but beginning to move through northeastern North Carolina and up into the tide waters of Virginia. And finally, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, on Friday morning, just what was once that very powerful 500 millibar low, now a pretty strong trough disturbance. They're swinging into coastal parts of North Carolina and Virginia. At the surface, you see that 0-degree line up at 850 millibars is pressing into northwestern North Carolina at 7 a.m. and sags in here with time tomorrow, but most of that's after the precipitation ends. Now, we talked briefly about the chance for a little bit of snow tonight. I think in the northwest Piedmont, especially north and west of the Triad, the precipitation could switch over to some wet snow for a little while. And in the Virginia border counties, say Stokes and Surry County, maybe Yadkin County down there, just south of the Virginia border there, and that one county down. In that northwest Piedmont area, that's where you could possibly pick up maybe an inch of wet snow on the grassy surfaces, but and even down into the Triad, there could be some wet snow mixing in, but just the snow aspect of the system does not look very significant at all. But what is significant is the rain. This is the rainfall from 1 o'clock in the morning on out through 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon off of the NAM. And you see we have a pretty good rain event still yet to unfold. I think when all is said and done, the total rain amounts, counting yesterday and today, in many spots will exceed 3 inches. For that reason, we have flash flood watches up for much of the region today. All right, that is it for today's edition of the Carolina Weather Video. Be sure and stay tuned to a reliable source of weather information in the event severe weather watches and warnings are issued today. Make sure those NOAA weather radios are charged up with fresh batteries and ready to go. Again, I think the biggest severe weather threat, especially along into the south and east of Interstate 85. And we'll, of course, watch that all very carefully for you on News 14 Carolina, Time Warner Cable, Channel 14. All right, that's it for today's edition. Everyone have a wonderful and safe Thursday, and God bless.